Hello, hello, and welcome back to MoJo JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the one and only Powerpuff Girls / JoJo's Bizarre Adventure recap and discussion podcast. I'm Raven.
And I'm Alison.
No news today, but we are going to be discussing Slave the Day in Los Dos Mojos.
Okay, so these episodes aired October 8th, 1999. So we're starting with Slave the Day, which is kind of a play on the phrase save the day. Graffiti is all over Townsville, including down in the subway, courtesy of the Gangrene Gang. A train comes and everyone gets out of the way but Big Billy, who laughs goofily as he is unaware of the danger. The Powerpuff Girls save Billy, and the rest of the gang try to run. Billy realized they saved his life as the girls beat up the rest of the gang. The girls come home to Billy sitting on their bed. He wants to thank them by being their butler. He says the Gangrene Gang don't care about him. So I don't know if is it Buttercup says Batman has a butler.
Yes, it was Buttercup.
Billy helps at dinner time by roughly putting the girls at the table and holding the professor as he serves dishes. Billy chews with his mouth open and bubbles copies, while Buttercup declares she hates broccoli, and Billy fiercely tells Professor she doesn't have to eat them. They watch TV until bedtime when Billy helps them with bedtime and reads them a fairy tale out of an upside-down book where he mixes random stories together. When the hotline rings, Billy answers and the mayor says the bank is being robbed. It takes Billy forever to remember what is said. The girls fly out, making a hole in the roof, while Billy busts through a wall. Billy sits on the girls as the bank robbing gang gets away. I don't know if we see the bank robbing gang again, and I feel like it's a very unimaginative name.
Yeah, no, we don't see them again.
Unless it's just like that's all they do is rob banks. Then Salami Swami is stealing art at the museum. So it's kind of surprising he just shows up. Like, I don't think he's been seen before, right?
No, I think this is his only appearance as far as I know. I enjoyed his name, but his design is a little yikes.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, the other group, they don't even come up with a cool name.
Yeah.
But then they have this guy, and it's kind of cool. He's using like a flute, and they're not really salamis, but they're like sausages, like strings of sausages, and he can command them with the flute. So they come up with this whole character, but he's only seen one time.
Yeah.
Apparently. Okay, so he's stealing art at the museum. So he uses his flute to control his snake-like links of sausages, but Billy eats them before they can strike. Billy then hits the Swami over the head with several works of art, ruining them. Then the mayor calls again because there is a giant red monster with one eye and one horn in town. The monster deflects the girls into a building, so Billy hits the monster so hard it knocks a bunch of buildings over like dominoes. Blossom loses her shit and yells at Billy and tells him to go. She said he made less of a mess, or there was less chaos when he was kind of like part of the Gangrene Gang.
Yeah.
Billy cries and runs back to the Gangrene Gang, who are playing cards. So they, for some reason, thought he originally was killed and run over, when he was run over, they thought he was run over by the train and killed previously. So they're kind of surprised to see him, but it's not like they jump up and hug him, like, oh my god, you're alive.
Yeah, no one really seems to care about him that much in this episode at all. It's kind of sad.
I feel like maybe in a way Professor did because he let him come in
Yeah.
and sit in the girls' room until they came home. But we didn't really see a whole lot of that. He was very gentle with the professor too. He sat him in his chair at the dinner table. Billy tries to explain what happened. They come up with a plan to get back at the girls. Billy appears tied up on the subway, but then he kind of breaks free and ties the girls up using part of the train rail as the train bears down on them. So he takes part of the train rail and kind of like ties it around him. So like Billy's like hella strong also.
Yes.
Because he took out the huge monster. And I'm not sure if it was dead or if he knocked it out.
Yeah, he's a beefy, burly boy.
So as the train is bearing down on them, Billy has a flashback and decides to save the girls because they saved him. He stopped the train and it crumpled and he freed the girls, but then they wail on him and the gang. And that's it. They kind of ask him, like, do you understand that you were bad? And he's like, yes. And they punch him anyway. And then, like, when he's tied up a second time, I think it is Buttercup is like, do we have to save him again? And they're like, yes, we're superheroes.
Yeah, it was so mean.
So Salami Swami was voiced by Tom Penny. Is that the narrator?
Yeah, I think he does the narration, yeah.
And then Big Billy is voiced by Jeff Bennett, and he also does Johnny Bravo. So that's kind of a range there.
Yeah.
I'm sure
much
we've
of it
mentioned it before, but like, I don't know, just to kind of like, it's sort of interesting how many voices some of the people do.
Indeed. Sometimes just like, damn, the range on them.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the episode is kind of fun because Billy does mean well, but yes, everyone is mean. And he's kind of a lovable doofus. He could probably go either way.
Yeah.
Like doing bad. I don't even know if he could be super bad.
Yeah.
He just gets his feelings hurt and then he wants to get back at people, but
Yeah.
and he's like incredibly strong. So he may do something accidentally because of his strength, but I don't think he's bad. But yeah, like the gang weren't really upset, even though they thought he was dead, and then they weren't really that happy that he was still alive. And Buttercup was kind of delighted at having a butler, and Bubbles was kind of copying him a bit, like chewing with her mouth open, and then he was like wiping her face at the dinner table.
Yeah.
But they just kind of found him annoying because, I mean, maybe he could have learned, but he wasn't helping.
No, yeah, he was making shit worse. I enjoyed when he was helping them at bedtime, and
Oh, yeah,
then
those were cute.
and then he like basically like swishes Blossom's whole body around to get her to use mouthwash, and he brushes Bubbles' hair upside down.
Yeah, instead of like using the brush to brush her hair, it's like he holds the brush still and then he runs her hair using her whole body, holding her whole body and runs her hair through the brush.
That part was adorable.
So he could have been like a nice big brother for them.
Yeah, I don't think he truly has the capacity for like pure evil or anything.
Yeah. Sure, if the girls should have beat him up at the end. I don't know if he would have come up with that plan himself.
Mm-mm.
I mean, essentially, they were attempting to kill the girls.
They're always trying to just kill them.
Like
I love them, but they're the worst.
just like teenagers, but they were
They're always down to murder.
attempting to kill them. I mean, they upset Billy by yelling at him because he was in his attempt to do good, did bad. But I don't think that worth murder.
That's not grounds for murder.
Yeah. But I don't think he would have come up with like, let's tie them to the tracks also.
No, that was all grubber. And then Ace was like, yes, this is good.
And they never would have been able to do it if Big Billy wasn't so strong.
Yeah. I guess the next episode I couldn't really find any good trivia for, but this one has a couple of pieces of trivia. There is a part where Billy goes to then save the girls from the train. Ace says, "Don't be a hero, Billy," and apparently that's a reference to a song called "Billy Don't Be a Hero" by Paper Lace. I've not heard of this song before, so I didn't realize it was a reference, but I added it to my Powerpuff Girls playlist. I need to remember to put the link to that in the episode description because I keep adding the stuff that they're referencing in there. So hopefully future Raven remembers. And then of course, the girls getting almost tied up on the tracks was like a reference to like old silent movies. Los Dos Mojos. We're met with Townsville under renovation with office workers essentially working on I-beams, and their papers are just flying everywhere. The narrator says this doesn't stop the hustle and bustle of Townsville. Not even Mojo Jojo is deterred. He flies around the construction site in a small vehicle, and the girls hit him with laser I-beams. He tells them to try on this I-beam for size, and fires a laser that hits a rope connected to a big red I-beam. Blossom calls out for the girls to scramble, but the I-beam hit Bubbles in the head, knocking her out. Mojo Mojo stands in front of her and gloats, and he is the last thing she sees before she closes her eyes. Later, back at home, a now conscious and bandaged Bubbles wakes up and looks around in horror at her surroundings. She takes off her bandages and zooms out. Meanwhile, Mojo is showering at his evil lair. He opens his closet to find it empty. Confused, he looks around and is forcibly ejected from his volcano lair. Blossom and Buttercup can't find Bubbles anywhere, but when the hotline rings, they resolve to take care of trouble in Townsville and to look for her later. They were told Mojo Jojo was destroying Soho in his Robo Jojo. When they get there, Mojo also appears on the scene, naked except for his towels. Buttercup beats him up, but Blossom calls her off because it's clearly not him causing the trouble. When Buttercup asks who's in the Robo Jojo instead, it is revealed that Bubbles is in the cockpit of the vehicle. Everyone is shocked as Bubbles delivers a speech in Mojo's signature repetitive speech pattern. Buttercup beats him up again, and Blossom asks what he did to their sister, but Mojo says that it's obvious there's no evil plan of his, because why would he be running around naked? Blossom realizes that the blow to the head is what caused Bubbles' new Mojo persona. Blossom tries to talk some sense into her, but Bubbles hits her. Blossom goes to attack her, but Buttercup, of all people, tells her not to hit Bubbles because two wrongs don't make a right, and they're sisters, so they shouldn't, hurt each other. When Bubbles challenges Buttercup, though, Buttercup is ready to throw down. Blossom grabs her and stops her, reminding her of what she just said, but sisterhood doesn't seem to be an issue for Mojo Bubbles. She absolutely wails on her sisters. She threatens them that she'll make them meet their maker, to which Blossom and Buttercup reply, "You leave the professor out of this," and start fighting back. Bubbles makes a powerful red aura of energy around herself, which surges forth and hits her sisters, incapacitating them. Mojo is delighted by the display and invites Mojo Bubbles to rule the world with him. Mojo Bubbles refuses, ranting that she's the one and only Mojo Jojo and doesn't need anyone else to rule the world with. Mojo says, "Oh, shut up," and whacks her over the head with another eye beam. He gets his hat back and puts it over his exposed brain and stands atop the Robo Jojo, ranting and gloating that he is the one and only Mojo Jojo. Bubbles comes to consciousness and sees the destruction around her. Thinking that Mojo must have caused all of this, she absolutely wails on him. Blossom and Buttercup regain their strength and remark that Bubbles is back to her sweet old self again, which is a good thing because there's no room in the world for two Mojo Jojos. The narrator says the girls have saved the day once more and then does his own impression of Mojo. I've seen this one quite a bit. It is a fun episode. It's just fun to see Bubbles take on this different persona and just absolutely. Well, it's not fun to see her beat up her sisters, but just to go ape shit. It's always fun to see Bubbles go ape shit.
I mean, she really is able to beat them up pretty well. So it's I feel and we saw it, I think, in Bubble Vicious too. She can be hardcore, but most of the time chooses not to be.
Yeah.
She may well be the most powerful of the three if you get her mad enough.
Yeah, when she goes into Hulk mode, you better watch out.
I mean, it is fun to see everyone using Mojo's speech pattern of kind of repeating themselves, but in phrasing it completely different, but basically saying the same thing over and over. We saw, well, the mayor doesn't do it, but when he does call, he does rhyme everything. The Mojo is in Soho using the Robo whatever.
Robo Jojo.
The Robo Jojo, and of course, Bubbles using the speech pattern, and then finally at the end, the narrator doing it. The way Mojo talks is fun.
Yes.
And also, Mojo running around in his towel. The whole episode is a good time as well.
He gets his clothes stolen and he gets kicked out of his home by a small child.
And then kind of surprising at the end where he's just celebrating that Blossom and Buttercup are defeated and actually wanting to join forces with Bubbles. I'm not sure how long that would have lasted had she agreed, but he was kind of willing, it seemed except she was but I'm the only Mojo Jojo.
Yeah, she's not willing to give up that persona in her, I guess, amnesia state.
So does Mojo Bubbles make a better Mojo than actual Mojo Jojo?
I mean, she definitely was better able and equipped to defeat her sisters that way than Mojo.
But then she was defeated by Mojo himself kind of easily.
Yeah.
He didn't even really use powers, he just hit her. again in the head.
Yes. Bubbles' one weakness, concussion. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We really appreciate your listenership. If you haven't already, it would be super cool if you could subscribe to the podcast. And if your podcatcher of choice allows you to leave a review, it would be super cool if you left us one. I suppose if you're watching this on YouTube, you could leave a comment instead of a review and subscribe to my channel. That would be very helpful. We could use the feedback and we'd love to get more reviews to maybe help get us out there and shown to more potential listeners.
If you're wondering where to watch the original Powerpuff Girls, we are currently watching it on Netflix.
I believe it is also on HBO Max. I did see it on there as well. For some reason, it has the pictures of the reboot, but I think it is just the original. I'm kind of surprised it's still on there because they've taken off a lot of the Cartoon Network shows. But anyways.
What are the next 2 episodes?
Yeah, the next 2 episodes we're going to be discussing are A Very Special Blossom and Daylight Savings. So tune in for those.
And we also have another podcast, What We Pod in the Shadows, and we're currently discussing the 6th and final season of What We Do in the Shadows, and then we will start back over with season 1.
Yes. I think we only have about 6 episodes of that out as this recording is happening, but there will be more because I think this episode isn't going to air until January of 2025. So there probably will be maybe 10 episodes by then. Check that out. What We Do in the Shadows is another one of our favorite shows. It's very funny. It's basically a mockumentary about 4 vampires and their familiar as they deal with modern life on Staten Island. So until next time, I'll be the roundabout. Goodbye.
Goodbye.